Hello and welcome to this week's Geek TV, the number one Doctor Who online destination that welcomes Tennant fanatics, Eccleston lovers and Matt Smith addicts and asks the question, can't we all just get along? Joining me in this dingy lair of geeky sin is Digital Spy's most knowledgeable nerd and also the beardiest man in the building, Morgan Jeffrey. Say hello, Morgan.
Hello.
Right, I've got a bone to pick with you, Morgan, because I've read your written review of this week's episode of Doctor Who, and you haven't been particularly generous, putting it politely. I think you must have been watching a different episode to me. Can you explain yourself to me and the viewers of Geek TV at home?
I honestly didn't think I was that overly harsh. I mean, I really did enjoy Nightmare in Silver. I want to make that clear. But for me, it was a good episode, but not a great one, necessarily. Because I think Neil Gaiman is a fantastic writer. And his last episode he did, The Doctor's Wife, I loved it. Doctor Who fans kind of universally loved it, which is pretty much unheard of. And then when you've got him back writing, you've got the return of the Cybermen. I was just expecting something a little more special. And for me, I liked this episode, but I didn't love it.
You're a hard man to please, Morgan. A hard man to please. Expectations so high.
The thing is, I think maybe Nightmare in Silver is kind of the victim of overly high expectations, and maybe that's not fair. But as I say, when his previous episode was so good and had such a kind of original and inventive idea at the centre, this was a little more traditional, a little more safe. And so, yeah, it was enjoyable, but it didn't blow me away.
I know we've been a bit guilty of saying the best episode of the series on Geek TV. It's possibly about the fourth time we've said it on 7 episodes. Yeah. But for me, this was the best episode of all 7.
It just keeps getting better and better.
It does keep getting better and better. Yeah. But I genuinely, I thought it managed to blend excitement, drama, some really funny bits. I thought there was some really funny lines there between, and some funny stuff with Clara and the Doctor. And I thought Matt Smith's performance was possibly any episode of Matt Smith I've seen is his best performance by far as the Doctor.
I definitely agree. It's one of Matt Smith's best performances. I think Neil Gaiman really loves writing for Matt Smith's Doctor, and as I say, the first episode he originally wrote it with David Tennant in mind, and this is clearly an episode written for Matt Smith, and Gaiman clearly really enjoys writing for Smith, and Matt Smith is clearly really enjoying the opportunity to do something different as well.
Jason Watkins and Warwick Davis, the guest stars this week. Another reason I love this episode this week. Do you think they were possibly the strongest supporting cast we've had in a while?
Definitely a strong supporting cast, I think. Yeah, Warwick Davis, I think people maybe underestimate him as an actor. Recently he's done stuff like Life's Too Short, An Idiot Abroad, and he's become, intentionally, but he's become a kind of comic figure. And so I think people maybe underestimate his abilities as an actor. But he's definitely fantastic in this episode, I thought. And actually, yeah, his performance was one of the things I enjoyed the most.
We spoke briefly about the Cybermen last week, but were you pleased with Gaiman's update on the Cybermen and how they looked and how they worked?
Yeah, definitely. I thought it was a great revamp, particularly kind of, the visual revamp they had, the new look. I really like that. I prefer it to the look the Cybermen had previously. It's kind of more influenced by the design they had in the 60s, kind of harks back to older stories like the Moon Base, Tomb of the Cybermen. And
how
also,
could we forget that?
Of course, classics, Alex, classics. And also, they've been given some new abilities. There's a few new twists. You've got the Cybermites, these kind of creepy little worm-like creatures. And I thought the scene in which they crawl out of the sort of dead Cybermen's empty sockets and infect Webley is one of the episode's sort of most chilling sequences. But then I did have a few issues with kind of these new abilities they have. There's one scene where they display this kind of super speed and they move, in silence. But then later on, they're kind of back to their old kind of stomping best, where you can hear them coming from a mile away. And I'm not quite sure what happened there, really.
I don't wish to be the bearer of bad news, but it is the last episode of the current series of Doctor Who next week, which means, and this is even worse news, only one more episode of Geek TV. Morgan, how are you feeling about the conclusion of the series and potentially, if rumours are to believe, one of Matt Smith's last ever episodes?
Yeah, well, I think this has been a quite solid run for Doctor Who generally. I mean, some episodes better than others maybe, but I think episode 1 was really strong, episode 3 really strong, episode 5 really strong as well. And as I say, there have been, some episodes that have been stronger than others, but I don't think we've had any episode that's been like a real stinker. I mean, they've all kind of had redeeming features, and I'm excited about the finale next week as well. Kind of interestingly, the press previews that have been sent out of the finale, they've had the last 5 minutes excised. So I'm kind of predicting that we're going to end on a really big cliffhanger, and then that'll lead us into the 50th anniversary special.
think episode 2 was a bit of a stinker, personally. But perhaps the big cliffhanger, perhaps what they've chopped off the end of the episode that me and you have been given the preview, perhaps is going to be the big reveal, the big question everyone wants to know: what is the Doctor's name?
Yeah.
Obviously, they've teased that in the title of the episode. Are you placing any bets on what the Doctor's name is going to be? Is it going to be revealed in this episode?
I'm gonna put it out there now. No. Basically, I don't think there's any way you're going to find out the Doctor's name, just because no matter what it's revealed to be now, it could be Percy Who, it could be Blargon the Seventh, and no matter what it is, it's going to end up being an anticlimax, after all the build-up. So I think Stephen Moffat, as he's kind of want to do, he will come up with some twist, he'll come up with some out, and he'll work a way around it, basically.
Some people who do think that the name is going to be revealed to the Doctor is bookmakers Paddy Power,
right?
Who've got some great, obviously 6-1, John Smith.
Sure, the Doctor's alias that he's used quite a lot in the past, yeah?
That's the favourite.
Yeah.
The rest of the ones that you can bet on, probably less likely, I would say.
Right.
16-1, the Terminator.
The Terminator.
Which would be a turn-up for the books.
There's a time travel link there, but very little else connecting the two.
And weirdly, even shorter odds, so I don't know what info they've got. 12-1, Predator.
Predator.
It's more likely than Terminator, according to Paddy Power.
Sure. There's a link between Terminator and Predator. I'm not quite sure what the link is to Doctor Who. I'm not. Yeah.
9-1, Merlin.
There is actually precedent in a Sylvester McCoy story from the 80s where the Doctor is Merlin. So that is geekiness, personified. That really is that one.
25-1, the Destroyer of Worlds.
That's like a nickname that the Doctor's been given in past episodes by his enemies. So, but the odds of that being his actual name, I think, are fairly slim.
10-1, Death's Companion. There's also Hades, Jason, Achilles, all suggested, all possible names.
Sure.
My personal theory is that in a massive act of ego, Stephen Moffat is going to name the Doctor Stephen Moffat.
Right. It's all been an autobiographical sci-fi tale, basically.
And Stephen Moffat is going to quit at the end of the series, and he's going to leave, but he's going to leave his mark on Doctor Who,
right?
In a gigantic act of self-indulgence. That's my personal theory. But that's all we've got time for this week on Geek TV. Morgan and I are off to play Cybermen upstairs and go to battle in our bedrooms. But make sure you're back here next week for the final episode of the series.